What if the secret to peak performance in today's workplace isn't about doing more, it's about doing what matters with radical intention? Welcome back to Talent Talks. We're diving deep into something we haven't explored much on this show before: the intersection of sales excellence, peak performance, and showing up authentically human in high stakes environments. Our guest today is Alex Dripchak, and honestly, he's one of the most accomplished young professionals we've ever had the privilege to interview. With elite sales experience at Oracle and Mercer, Alex discovered something counterintuitive. The best salespeople aren't performers putting on a show. They're trust architects who master what he calls inverse charisma. Alex has a new book launching January 6th called Maximize, and he's going to share his 5 productivity adjustments that can boost performance by 50 to 100%. But here's what really fascinates me. Alex founded the Commence Foundation because he saw a critical gap. College students graduate with great GPAs but zero life skills for workforce readiness. We're going to explore how AI is reshaping not just sales, but how we think about human connection, the misalignment tax that's costing organizations millions when teams don't speak the same language, and why going first and giving first might be the leadership philosophy we all need right now. This conversation touches on everything from emotional intelligence to generational gaps in the workplace, and I think you're going to walk away with some frameworks that will genuinely change how you approach your work. Let's dive in.
Thanks for joining us on another episode of Talent Talks. I'm your host, Emily Alvarez, and I am joined today by one of the top sales peak performance guests I think I've ever had on this show. His name is Alex Dripchak, and I'm very excited to have you on the show today. You're very young to have such an accomplished background, and I get that all the time too, actually. So
Yeah,
we're in good company.
right.
But you have an enormous background in sales, and
Mm.
I am excited to dig in and talk to you about it because I haven't done a lot on this show before when it comes to sales and performance and tactics and like showing up human in this type of a space, right?
Sure.
And so I'm excited to sort of dissect what you teach as a leadership coach in this area. You have a couple of books, and we'll talk about those. But you've got one that's coming out very soon. The ebook pre-order is out, and you have the soft and hardcover that are coming out in the next like month.
Yep.
And so yeah, an audio book in February or March called Maximize, already a published author. So I'm absolutely fascinated by you.
Thank you so much.
So tell our audience about your background and how you got to where you are, because it's really quite fascinating.
Sure, sure. So first off, thanks for the compliment that I'm young.
Yeah,
I'm older than I might appear, right? I think you and I share that kind of approach, right? It's like people are like, "Well, how
right.
old are you?" It's like, wait a second, no way. I was actually just picking up my son from daycare, and the lady looked at me and she goes, "You're picking up your son?" I'm like, "Yes." And she's like, "Oh." I was like, "Yeah." And so we have children the same age, but look a little bit different. So it's a good
Well,
thing.
actually, I have a 21-year-old,
I
so
can't believe that still. I know when you told me that. Yeah, I didn't want to blow up your spot, but that is good for you. So we're keeping our exercise, keeping our water intake, things that we'll talk about for not only peak performance and productivity, but
right,
for staying young, right, and looking young.
exactly.
So yeah, so happy to be here. Thanks for having me. Looking forward to covering a myriad of topics tonight, or today for whenever people are listening. But yeah, I mean, you want to talk specifically about my background in sales, right? So
Yeah.
where I started, kind of, and how it came to be. So I actually kind of fell ASS backwards into sales. So I always thought I was going to end up in marketing or advertising. Spent a number of years during college and internships in that space. Loved it all. However, I got an offer at Oracle. I heard about the training program out in California for 9 weeks. The offer was very generous, and it was also about a step above entry level. So there was an entry level position, and then they were starting people basically at the second tier. So I was like, all right, I can't turn this down.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, let me look into this. I had a wonderful time out there. Really enjoyed my time at Oracle. In about 4 years, for a little over 4 years, I had 4 different roles: sales management as well as inside sales, outside sales. So really got to see it all. And then from there, spent about a little over 4 years at Mercer as well. So
Right.
number one talent and HR consulting firm. My work at Oracle was also in the HCM, so human capital management space.
Right.
So got to see the technology side as well as the consulting side about how top talent is kind of performing at 2 very elite companies. So big background as to why I got fascinated with productivity and peak performance. And then from there, kind of rounded out my skills and my background in the HR space, serving recruiting and getting to know the top tech leaders. So ran an award called the Top Talent Leaders in Technology. So recognizing 50 leaders there across the major organizations, and now back into the benefit space at Bright Horizons for my day job. But as you alluded to, run a foundation that teaches life
Right.
skills for college students. Have a couple books we can get into. Advise an AI company. I know you and I were going back and forth on AI, so really fascinating. What I'd call sales quality AI platform. Do some coaching. There's really not a free moment, right? So it's
Right.
everything's getting
Yeah.
applied. So that's kind of my background.
Yeah, I love it. And it's very similar to mine because we like all over, kind of a
Yeah.
Jill or jack of all trades, right? Kind of all
Yeah.
over the place, background in a lot of different things. And the Commence Foundation is really cool. I mean, it's life enhancing skills that are directed towards students that are in, college age, which is really an amazing foundation that you've put together as well. And so we'll talk about the Commence Foundation also. But I want to get into this because I think when we talk about sales or we talk about showing up as a
Mhm.
salesperson, um, it's not an easy thing to teach
Right.
how to be a good salesperson at least. And I think one of the things that gets sales gets a bad rap, right?
Oh,
Just
yeah.
kind of automatically right out of the gate. There's a lot of different types of salespeople, but I think most of the time it's a level of rejection that can turn a lot of people off to wanting to
Mhm.
be in sales
Yep.
because it is psychologically a lot for some people to handle.
Mhm.
And so when you're looking at showing up as a salesperson and this performance that you give, um, what is something that is kind of unexpected that you learned about yourself through this process? I mean, what is it really kind of brought out in you? Because I know for me, I've learned a lot being a salesperson about myself.
Mhm. Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, I think obviously you really test the limits of your resilience, right? There's
Yeah,
so I was talking to someone in sales not that long ago, and we were just saying it's like a roller coaster ride. However, there's not a lot of peaks, right? You got to really celebrate
right.
those peaks and enjoy it because a lot of it is either, kind of the grunt work or there's disappointments. So you got to really be able to ride that emotional roller coaster. So I think that's one thing that it's taught me. And what it's taught me about myself. I think I thought so. My brother's also in sales and kind of more of
Right.
your typical, very gregarious, energetic, um, personality for sales. Whereas I wouldn't subscribe to that. I was kind of always thinking, oh, I was going to go the advertising marketing route because I would consider myself a little bit more creative, or
Right.
I thought I was going to go into consulting because that's the approach I take is consultative, very advisor kind of based. And then I kind of realized that I'm like, well, as a salesperson, you have to be creative on all your strategies and tactics. And most of the top salespeople, there are obviously the people that are in the traditional lane of sales that do very, very well, like I mentioned with my brother. But there's a lot of people you'll see where they're very successful as those advisors, consultants, taking a different approach to what people would typically call salespeople. So I think that that's important to really distinguish. And I
Yeah.
thought I was going to have to change more of myself to become a salesperson. And I just kind of realized that no, I used and honed my skills into a world that I'm more comfortable with. And there's some things I can always improve upon, but by and large, I think that consultative advisory led position is a good one to have in sales.
That's interesting because I get a lot of times that people think you have to like slip into this performative role
Mm,
within sales, like you're almost putting on a show for people, right? Because
right.
ultimately you want them to buy. And so it's about getting them to do something. Therefore, you almost have to like dance in front of them, right? Like get them to be excited about it. And that works for some people. Um, I've always taught sales along the lines more of being like a trust architect.
Yeah. Okay.
And I think you're a lot like I am in the sense of when you're authentic, it's not that difficult to relate to somebody and communicate with them into um having them essentially buy something or purchase a product or a service or something like that because I don't know about you, but I don't typically sell stuff I'm not like invested in.
Right. That's the
And
first thing is this, are you
right,
going to be a personal user of it? Right.
right.
So
I have
I
to eat
think,
my own food basically.
right. Drink your own champagne, eat your own dog food, all those analogies. It's nice to see when the company uses their own solutions and walks their own walk and talks their own talk, but especially
Right,
yourself.
right,
So and that's one thing I've always kind of brought back to leadership is like, hey, if I was a buyer, here are the three things I would have a problem with. So how can we
right.
answer all of these objections before they pop up? So I think taking that lens is very important. So I applaud you for mentioning that.
Right. And well, and I think it's important too because clients don't really care where like sales and customer service begins and ends.
Mm,
And so when we talk about like teams, don't you think that because we look at a lot of times like marketing, sales, CX, right?
right,
They're very like siloed in a lot of companies from each other.
right.
And so a lot of times those three are sort of like in a battle royale with each other because
Mm,
they are siloed, segmented, they get irritated with one another, they don't talk to each other, and they don't receive the feedback from like what's really going on in a lot
right,
of cases.
right.
Nor do they typically want to deal with it.
Mhm.
And so my feeling about it is if you're really good at sales, your client really or customer shouldn't really know any different in that
Right. The
transition.
entire process should be seamless. Right.
Smooth, right? Because they're ultimately the one that has to go through it.
Mhm,
And our experience doesn't matter to them.
mhm,
It's their money. They're purchasing something that's supposed to help them, not us.
mhm.
We're not our client, right?
I appreciate that.
So, um, what have you seen in your experience happen when those three talk to each other? Because I've seen magic happen in those
Mm.
cases.
Yeah, I think one of the things I wanted to call upon is people that have that kind of cross-functional or cross-collaborative experience, people that have been in marketing and sales and CX or different roles. I think that really works well. So there's one particular lady that I got to work with at Bright Horizons who was excellent for her space in event marketing, and always wanted to get sales perspective and
Right,
make sure that she was tied to sales and working in tandem, since a lot of the events that we selling at, right? So there's me a salesperson there as well. So she was particularly good at it. But I've noticed that I think when you hire entrepreneurs, when you hire people that have had background in all three, it
yeah,
really shines for the process. So that's one thing actually I have to say Bread Horizons does quite well is a lot of our team members have either owned their own businesses or they used to run centers for Bright Horizons and now they're working on the account management side and in the marketing side. So I think having that cross-functional experience is one thing to really look for in order to drive good performance.
right,
And then to your follow-up question about when you see all of them work together, just how seamless it can be, is people don't feel like they're being handed off, right?
correct,
That's the big thing.
right,
So I like when organizations have more of an overlap, when sales is on the kickoff call, they stay in touch, they become more of a relationship manager as opposed to a salesperson. So I
right,
think that that's more authentic to have is almost like at Oracle, it used to be called a key account director. So they
right,
used to
yeah,
be, and then at Mercer, I served in the capacity where I would be across all of the lines of business. So I'd be able to help with every single one of the client's requests. I think those models work really, really well.
I agree.
Yeah, it's might be a little tougher to find people that can fulfill, a role where it's like, hey, you need to know 60, 70, 80, 100 different product lines. But you're kind of that steward, that coordinator, that quarterback to connect everybody and to curate all the best material to put in front of them. So you don't have to go really deep on into anything, but you have to be good at kind of stewarding the discussions and shepherding them where they need to go.
Right. Yeah, great points in there. And I agree with all of them. We used to make everybody at Applicant Pro start and support. Didn't matter what
Mhm.
they were doing. They all
Mm.
started in support
Okay.
because even if they wanted to be in sales,
Yeah.
they had to move through support
Mm. A
because
rotational program?
was it what? I'm sorry.
Was it a rotational program? Like they started for like, 6 months here and then 6 months no.
No, it wasn't really 6 months. I don't really recall how long they stayed in support, but we hired like 70% working moms.
Mm.
And all of our salespeople, with the exception of a couple, were all moms, working
Mm.
moms. And what we did was we were an ATS, a HR tech company,
Mhm.
but we didn't go out and hire a bunch of tech people
Mhm.
because we wanted our teams to have, I mean, our product managers and those people were tech people for the most part, but our actual CX teams, our, uh, marketing teams, all those people were like working moms,
Mhm.
salespeople. And the reason we did that was because we wanted them to have the actual client experience.
Mhm.
And so if there was something going on or something wrong, they would be like the first to raise a red flag and be like, this UI sucks. What happened?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because
I
if
think that's
it's going to piss them off, it's going to piss the client off,
yeah.
you
Yeah,
know?
and then that feedback loop I think is important, right? So it's
Oh,
not just
yeah.
somebody complains, but you actually do something about it. So how
Yeah.
iterative are you? How's your roadmap? How are you implementing client feedback? Do you have a client advisory board? Do you have like a broker advisory board or consultant advisory board? If you work with people, there's an intermediary. I
Right.
think those are really important lanes. So
Yeah.
yeah, good shout out.
Well, and I think to kind of move into the peak performance side of this,
Yeah.
to kind of segue into that, I think it builds that resilience you're talking about, right? Um, my daughter served a religious mission
Okay.
recently where she had to go door knocking
Wow.
and she heard the word no a lot.
Sure.
And I told her, I said, this is probably some of the best sales training you will ever have in your life
Yeah.
because you had to build up a lot of resilience and a lot of uh, emotional fluency,
Yeah,
let's
of
say,
course.
under pressure, right? And under circumstances of like having random strangers just slam doors in your face,
Mhm.
you know? And so I think peak performance is not just for athletes.
Mhm.
This is something that requires habits, energy, systems, right? So let's talk about peak performance because this is
Yeah.
something you swear by,
Yeah, something that I try to architect my entire day around
right?
performance because my day pretty much once I get up, I'm working until I go to bed, right?
Right.
So a lot of people
Yeah,
say, "Oh, you're going to be burned out. How are you going to be able to do that, et cetera?" Now I do have flexibility where I'm able to work kind of where I want.
right.
So, but one of the things where I find really helpful is I'll work from the treadmill. I have my computer
Yeah,
set up and I'm
yep,
typing there, and if I need to get a quick jolt of more energy, I'll do a sprint for a minute, and then I get back to typing and walking, and for me that's been really really helpful. So things structuring your day. So a lot of people might wake up and have their cup of coffee. There's a bunch of studies that say wait at least 90 minutes to have that cup of coffee.
right,
So there's a lot of times people think that they need the jolt and then they don't think about the long-term ramifications of it. I know there's a lot of people that love working out in the morning, which for health benefits I would say is really good, but for mental clarity and energy, I try to work out right when I'm starting to dip.
right.
So
Yep,
if I know is going to be your circadian rhythm, usually around that 8 hour mark after you wake up, trying to get my workout in 8 hours after I wake up is one goal, somewhere
right,
7, 8 hours. And then I can get back and energize for the rest of the day. So I think there's a lot of intentionality about how to structure your day. And then when you have a lot of different things that you're processing, one of the big things I swear by, and it's in both of my books, is arranging your day the night before. So
yes, yeah,
sometimes if I'm in the sauna or steam room by myself, I'll just take out my voice notes, which are on Apple and easy to get for free. And then I'll
right,
just say, all right, things to do, and I'll go through each one, right? So my day job, I'll go through the foundation, I'll go through the book, next process, and then I'll just play that back, and then I'll type up those notes and either do it that night or do it in the next morning. And then I'd say the biggest tip is Robin Sharma talks a lot about this for 5 a.m. club. So a
Right.
lot of people interpret that you need to wake up early in order to get a lot done. And that, if that works
Right.
for you, that's great. I have friends that wake
Yeah.
up early. That's awesome. I'm a night owl. So what I would say is you need to find time to exist in that like 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. window where there's not much going on.
Hmm.
Television shows are pretty much done. Sporting events are pretty much done. A lot of the distractions of the world are done and gone to bed,
Right.
and then they resume again, whatever it is, 7, 8, 9 o'clock in the morning. So how do you find time to operate either late at night to get a lot done or early in the morning to get a lot done?
Right.
So
Yeah.
if unfortunately the people that traditionally go to bed at 11:30 and wake up at 7:30, I think you might be missing out, right? So is there an adjustment you can make there for your schedule to stay up a little bit later and get more done, wake up a little bit later, or to go to bed earlier and wake up earlier?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm an early to bed, early riser.
Yeah.
I've always been like that. And my dad was like that. And, my just that was we worked out first thing in the morning, or I was in
Yeah.
sports and we had early stuff, right? Um, and but it's the preparation up to it too. It's the
100%.
habits, right, that we form that are so important. And I would even go so far, and I'm totally stealing this from my friend Randy Anderson, but he calls them life rhythms.
Mm,
And I love that. And I like have stolen it so much now, but they're really
100%.
life rhythms that we get in. And some rhythms are healthier than others. And what I love about, I haven't read it yet, obviously, but with Maximize, it's kind of a field manual from what it sounds like
It
about
is.
like not necessarily doing more, but doing what matters with more intention.
Correct. Yeah, and also carving out the space. The intentionality is the biggest thing, right? So just
Right.
now I kind of gave you a little bit of a playbook. You were talking about that. So it's like have your coffee a little bit later, your caffeine a little bit later,
Yeah.
work out right before you need to have your peak energy and performance. Carve out time where you use that peak flow to work on whatever your most prolific quality output is, as Brennan Burchard would call it. So
Right.
make sure you're putting your energy towards what matters most, and then carving out that time either late at night or early in the morning. If you make
Right.
those small adjustments and arranging your day night before, so 5 things, you make those 5 adjustments, and you'll see your productivity, I would say 50 to 100% higher just off of those 5 small things. But yeah, it is that field manual, that playbook. So what I do is it's 100 tips. Every section is under 1,000 words, so 250 to 1,000 words, and you kind of jump in and out wherever you want. So if your problem is starting,
Interesting.
sustaining, finishing, or optimizing, there's tips for each one of the parts of the process. And then you can jump around. The number 100 is not as important as number 50, and 50 is not as important as number one in the book. So it is a countdown, but it's really engineered or architected for maximal action orientation and ease of reading. So both books are that way.
Yeah.
So you don't
Yeah.
have to
So
start at page one and labor through it all. You jump into what's going to make the biggest impact for you.
interesting. So they're almost iterated.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that because that's the biggest thing I see with people that like get overwhelmed is they try to eat the whole elephant in one bite, right?
Mhm.
Or the whale in one bite, and they can't iterate, right? They can't break it off into smaller chunks. And that's how I manage teams is like 4 disciplines of execution. It's like you
Mhm.
break these up into smaller iterations because otherwise you're going to miss something. Your project management's going to be off. Like something's going to happen, right?
It's just it
And
becomes so overwhelming, right? You're just like, oh,
yeah,
the task keeps
so
getting bigger and
overwhelming.
bigger. So then
Right.
it's, I think Adam Grant writes in his book Hidden Potential, which is behind me. These are
Yeah.
my top recommended books, by the way, the ones right
Yeah.
along here. So his book is fantastic, and he talks about the greatest motivator or the greatest way to take action is a sense of progress.
Right.
So
Right.
for me, I'm hoping that people, when they open the book, they're like, oh, I can do this. I only need to read 2 pages at a time, or, I can jump in here or jump into what I find most beneficial. Awesome. As opposed to start at page one. I've got 27 pages before the next chapter. Oh man, that's a lot.
Right.
So I'm trying to make sure that people use the book as that field manual that you called it.
Right. And sometimes you just need that disruptor, you know? I don't have time to sit and read a whole 25-page like
Chapter.
chapter. Yeah.
Right.
I just need a disruptor. And that will hit the reset button, mindset shift, all that fun stuff. And that's where it'll take me in that moment. And that's
Mhm.
maybe all I need. But I think it's interesting. I had a guest on the show I think it was last week, and we were talking about like habit building and mindset shifts and all of this stuff. And he talked about that with these iterations, um, we have to be careful because when we are focusing our brain first thing in the morning, most people who are professionals, we go to, and I thought this was very interesting. We go to like this, I've got to check my email first thing in the morning. I've
Yeah.
got to look at my text first thing in the morning. I've got to like, and this goes back to your planning your day beforehand, right?
Yep.
I've got to like do all of these things first thing in the morning. Like
Mhm.
even before I've had my cup of coffee, even before I've like, I mean, most of us roll over in bed and we pull our phone off the charger and we're doing like this, right? In the
Yep.
bed.
Yep.
Carl J. Cox, he said, don't do that first thing in the morning.
Yeah.
Stay away from doing anything structured like that first thing in the morning. Do something creative first thing in the
Mhm.
morning, whether it's to like write or and like actually write,
Mhm.
or it's to like just do find something that doesn't entail that,
Mhm.
whether it's read something inspirational or go for a walk and appreciate something in nature, like
Yep.
do something that is not going to pull your brain into this like cobweb of structure first thing in the morning, and you
And
will have,
anxiety,
yeah, and
you know?
anxiety, and you will
Yeah.
have more innovative thoughts throughout the day
Mhm.
than if you plug in to this technological web of bullshit first thing in the morning and get your brain all fired up into like that mode.
Yeah, no, I mean, so a couple points there. Some I think are maybe more research based than others. So I
Yeah.
think the point around nature is really important. So they said to try to
Yeah.
get outside within the
Grounding.
first half an hour of waking up. So
Yeah.
that's when I
Sun.
would, yeah, exactly. That's when I would definitely kind of ask, put a star next to or double down on, highlight, whatever you want to say. The creative one, I've seen more research that you're more creative at night, and I'm definitely more creative at night, more analytical in the morning. So maybe the reading or doing reports, things like that. But I would say start with the nature. Start outside of your phone, like you said, for sure, because the
Yeah.
anxiety there gets higher.
Yep.
So some great points in there. The only one I think for me, creative it might be a little bit more optimized and produce a little bit more if your creativity was more at night.
Yeah. And the beauty of this is it's different for everybody,
Yeah.
right? I mean, everybody's resets and everybody's like inner script is going to look different
Hmm.
depending upon what works for you. But
Hmm.
I do know the getting on your phone thing in the morning is not good. I do know
Yeah.
that.
Yep.
So do you feel like um with AI, do you feel like sales I believe it's going to bridge a lot of gaps
Mm.
with sales and um what it can do for maximizing these performances, right?
No pun intended.
Right. Exactly. I believe that it is a situation where, like, at any given time, there's like hundreds of thousands, maybe even millions of dollars sitting in a CRM
Mm.
that's just sitting in there.
Mm.
And like, what's sales is like basically the bane of their existence. Follow up. I hear it all the time. I hate
Yep.
doing follow up. I hate it.
Yep.
Well, with AI, there's really no excuse for that anymore.
Yeah.
And I think it's kind of interesting because it also has the ability to like not silo as much because you can connect in more to other avenues or be more creative with how you're reaching out to clients and customers and different things. So I don't know. I think AI, and I've been saying this a lot lately, it doesn't, it gives us the doesn't let us be mediocre anymore.
I was actually just gonna say that, like almost the exact same phrase. I was
Yeah.
gonna say that it brings things up to a level of talent that is sufficient, right?
Yeah.
So now when I reach out to my marketing team or whoever it is and I ask them for some copy for the next event, and if I know they put it into AI, it's going to be at least decent. So I don't have to be like, no, you have to fix this, fix that, right? So
Right.
I think it is there's a great uptick or leveling out of talent. I just want to make sure that people don't become overly reliant upon it. Because there
Oh,
are
of
certain
course.
things almost all the time. I've actually seen a great improvement in the last like 3, 6 months on especially ChatGPT, when you get
Hmm.
into 4 and 5 now. But for me, I can almost always tell if AI wrote it. So, that's one of the
You'd be
things where I'm like,
surprised.
yeah, yeah.
It's
Getting better
interesting.
though.
It's getting harder and harder to tell.
It is. It is.
And especially the way, I'll tell you this right now, the way that I write it, you would never know.
Hmm.
You would never know.
So your prompts must be very good then. Very
They're very
specific.
good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that's what I literally no piece of content that comes across my computer goes unused.
Mm.
And so it's really one of those things where like transcripts, again, sales, your transcripts are a gold mine of information.
Hmm.
Take your transcripts and personalize your follow up back to those people. Talk about the things, really dissect them, right? Because nowadays, like the AI can help you with that. You can build personas, you can do all these things. I know I'm probably talking over heads right now, but there's a lot of things that the AI can do to maximize the amount of output that you are able to do where it's actually really high quality,
Hmm.
but you're going to reach a lot more people in a lot more timely fashions.
Hmm.
And I think it'll also help with delivery on promises and things that, we're lacking in. But I agree with you about humanity needing to be involved in that part of the conversation because sales is very much about trust. And people do not trust AI right now. It is the only
Right.
technology I've ever seen where someone says, "Did you use AI to write that?" Who cares? Like,
I've got
so
my push, I think, 3 times in the last week. So yeah.
yeah. It's like, oh, well, I mean, did it care if I sent it by email or facsimile? I don't know, you know? But I mean, it's just one of those things. It's kind of funny that people ask about it because it's like, does it matter? That still has the same context, but it's still very much a psychological safety thing.
Yeah, I think one of the situations, there's been a couple AI hallucinations, I think they call them, or situations where you have to just be very vigilant, right? Checking
Oh
sources,
yeah.
things like that.
Yeah.
I gave AI some more complex tasks about 2 weeks ago. I was online at like 9:30 at night, and I was like, you know what? Let me just spend getting back to the optimizing. So I spent a lot of time on starting, sustaining, and finishing with my day job. But I was like, let me get back to thinking about optimizing. How much can I actually give to AI? I know I
Right.
can give it summarization. I know I can give it some pithy taglines, creative emails, things like that. But
Sure.
how much can I actually give it? Let's look through sources. Let's look through it creating really kind of metrics that matter, or like bullet points of here are the reasons why you should go with our solutions. And I asked it, and it actually pulled from studies that were not ours, right? So it was giving facts as to why to buy us that were related to a
Another
competitor.
company.
Yeah, not even another company, a competitor. So I was like, okay, well, that's not true, right? So making sure that looking through your sources, and then if you give the right prompts and you refine the I think it's very safe. It's just a matter of how much is the user doing. And I think that's
Right.
why people are reticent of did you use AI? It's almost not so much an AI question. It's more of what are all the safeguards that you use to make sure that your answer is valid and strong.
Well, I mean, I see it on like a regular email. People ask it. That's
Wow.
just like, who cares?
Yeah.
Like it's a marketing email. Like there's nothing in it that's like, you know, but they ask.
Mm.
And it's one of those things where like, all right, well, yeah, it is written by AI, but if you had to ask, chances are that means it was pretty freaking good that you couldn't tell.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but I think we do have an issue where people are getting very dependent on it.
Mm.
And what I believe is that it's a tool and I know what I'm good at and I know what other people are good at and I I believe that with certain things, it can make me a superhero
Hmm.
in some cases. My writing's gotten better, like a lot of stuff's gotten better because I've allowed it to help me as a tool, not to take over my life. And I use it to
Hmm.
12 hours a day, you know, but
I think
it's a
I was going to say,
co-pilot.
there you go. That's what
Yeah.
Microsoft calls their tool, right?
Well,
Copilot.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
that is a good way to use it, and I think that's the appropriate term for it. I think that right now I just see kind of two camps, and I guess we can get back to what is Jeffrey Moore's crossing the chasm with the early adopters and all of that.
Right.
But I feel like I either see people stuck at the start point where they're like, I don't get it. Why do I need to use this? I'm not going to use it, etc. Or people that are just extremely invested in it. Either and they're doing a good job. Sounds like you're doing a good job, or they are overly reliant upon it. I'm
Yeah.
not seeing a lot of people in the middle ground. I mean, but you see more than I do, so.
Yeah, I mean, I do see it. I think with where I see it the most is, and we're going to see this more and more with companies, and you put it really well when you call it a misalignment tax,
Mm.
right? Um, you use a misalignment tax in different terms than what I'm using it, but it kind of can translate into this. Um, but misalignment tax in that we are not aligning our teams and our people within our organizations, both culturally and technology wise,
Hmm.
to like figure out how to implement this thing correctly. And there's work on the team that has to happen culturally, a cultural integration of sorts, that needs to happen before we even get into the building
Mm.
because it's not another CRM. It's not another like, I don't know, clock in, clock out, like payroll type thing. It's This is something that people are actually afraid of because it's been
Mhm.
told it's going to take their jobs, right?
Right, right.
And so that requires handling it not with kid gloves because we're all adults here
Mm.
and we need to be able to have an adult conversation about things, but
Mhm.
we need to handle this with a little bit more, let's say, empathy because the opposite of that is apathy.
Mhm.
And there's really no room in my mind in between those two things.
Mm. Good way to put
So
it.
especially when you're dealing with people like this, you know?
Yeah, I actually came across a study, and I'm trying to see if I can pull it up quickly, that was talking about AI job loss, and it's not as high as people think. It's kind of more
No, but
redirecting jobs.
it's going to get higher. It will
Yeah,
get higher but I don't think it's going to happen like in 2026 is the year that the world will end with jobs.
right.
It's not going to happen tomorrow.
No,
But
I
there,
actually just found it from
right.
January to June. This is from Gartner 2025. Said only less than 1% was due to AI productivity gains for
Right.
job loss. Restrain, reduce, reposition, not AI based at all. So yeah, it's a very fascinating kind of study and graphic that they put together. But yeah, it's not super high, and I think people are a little overly concerned about it, to your point.
Yeah, well, and I'm more concerned right now about the bubble that's going to happen because what companies like Microsoft and Google, I just wrote something for LinkedIn about this the other day or yesterday. LinkedIn, Google, like they can survive if their AI has problems along the way or whatever, because it's like circus peanuts to them. But these smaller companies are going to struggle if they implement incorrectly or they wait too long.
Hmm.
Because these bigger companies are going to bury them because they're going to be 20 million times more productive.
Hmm.
And those smaller companies aren't going to be able to catch up if they bury their head in the sand or they do it incorrectly and then have to backpedal and like undo all the stuff they did just to like redo it, and that's the sort of the I don't want to say the danger of it, but it's kind of like um let's do it right the first time,
Hmm.
and get your team in a position where like if you need to overhaul your company now and your culture sucks, right? And I think um talk about because you talk about misalignment tax, right? It,
In what context?
like in the emotional and financial cost of like what happens to teams that like we're not speaking the same language, we're not going for
Right.
the same initiative.
Hmm.
Um, that's going to happen if we're not on the same page with this, right? So let's talk about that. Like if we don't get on the same page with our alignment, like what happens to sales in this case? Like it's going to be, I have a feeling they're going to be on the chopping block first in a lot of cases.
You think
As far,
salespeople will be?
I don't know, well, I think they'll be replaced.
Hmm. See, I think I'd be more concerned if I was in a marketing position.
Marketing and
Maybe
HR are, well,
yeah,
marketing, HR will be later. Marketing always gets cut first.
right.
But sales, I think there's going to be an upturn with the economy. People are going to be looking for jobs. And I think if people are not like making, say, quotas and things like that, and things get like crazy, I think salespeople will have a high turnover. I
I think
do.
it's going to be very industry dependent too. So if your
Yeah,
sales role, I guess the question back will be how much BD or business development, cold outreach, things like that are a component of your role.
right,
Those people I think are more at risk when AI can start doing outreach, right, and follow-ups and nurture campaigns, et cetera. For more
right.
face-to-face, complex sales cycles, things like that, I think you'll probably have more safety. But yeah, marketing, business development folks, I think those are at risk. Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see in the next like 3 to 5 years what is going to go down with this, because there's so many unknowns. But the one known I do have is that people need to learn this technology, at least to the, yeah, at least to the point that they can like function at a, foundational level with it.
Yeah, I think one of the things so my company's done a good job of is like identifying super users. So
Yes.
for each team, you have one or two
Yes.
people that you train, you get them up to speed, and then they're learning from a peer. So when you talk to your other peers, you're learning from a peer as opposed to, oh, that guy who came in for that training 6 months ago or 3 months ago, whatever it is, you'll forget
Yes.
a lot of it. So I think that that is a good way to go about it. And personally, I got identified to be a super user probably, a little bit based on my background and also working on a sales AI platform. So,
Right.
we talk about AI, we talk about the LLMs all the time, but there's many other applications for AI.
Oh,
So
yes.
we'll
Yeah.
get into that. But I thought that was a really good approach. And then I started using it
Yeah.
more myself. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's what we do. We go in and we find like almost like project managers is what we call them, or super
Yeah.
users, where they're like in charge of like the different iterations of their teams and what they do. Um, because and they cross train everybody,
Right.
and that's to take away some of that psychological fear that they're having about like, are we going to be included in this conversation? Like,
Hmm.
are we going to be invited to the discussion? Because that's a lot of the problem is like we don't invite people to that conversation.
Right.
And then they can't get their head around how to like where they fit in. That sense
Mhm.
of community goes away and then culture starts to fall. So yeah, tons of applications for AI, and the advice is don't be a magpie with it. Like don't just go to the next like shiny tool,
Yeah.
because there's
I
so
got you.
many, and like if they don't, you can have 50 tools, but then you're like 50 different applications. Like that's not good,
Hmm.
So find stuff that can like work together and try to keep it minimal.
In the same ecosystem. Yeah.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
Yeah. So I want to end on like a good note. Let's talk about the Commence Foundation
Yeah.
and your work with the Commence Foundation. So tell our listeners about the Commence Foundation and what you and your team over there are doing.
Sure.
Because it's a great foundation, and I'm college is obviously something that I have a 21-year-old who's going to go to college in the fall.
Okay.
And you know, I kind of had the conversation with her the other day, like I don't really know what to tell you about college. And I mean, if you want to go, you have a scholarship, so go. But I'm not going to sit here and tell you like, but I want her to be aware and know how to deal with like the inner scaffolding of this. And then when she comes out, like how to have a meaningful career,
Sure.
because it's difficult.
And I think what people misunderstand about college is it's not an end in and of itself.
Right.
It is a lever, a tool, it is a springboard, a vehicle, whatever you want to say to get a, better opportunity. So
Right.
unfortunately, college does not focus on that. They don't teach the what I call life enhancing and life changing skills that we do at the Commence Foundation.
Right.
So that's where we're partnering with institutions to say, okay, yes, you have the structure, you have the school, you have the students that will do basically whatever you tell them to do to get a high GPA.
Yeah.
So let's incentivize them to learn the things they're going to fundamentally change their life and help safeguard their success. So we teach around financial well-being. We teach on cold networking. We teach interview skills, presentation skills. We teach 14 different courses right now, and I'm working on a 15th that's going to be
Nice.
on creativity and innovation, but and maybe even a 16th on strategy. I got to see how ambitious I'm going to get here. But so we've kind of created this curriculum over the last 5.5 years. And it's insights from myself and our mentorship community, our advisors, etc. But it's also a lot of it is the books you see behind me on both sides. All the expert thinking you can see around the world. Books. I'm a little biased since this is my second book, but
Yeah.
authors,
That's all
are
right.
really spending a lot of time and trying to put their best foot forward and their best thinking and their best research into a book. So for
Yeah.
20, $25, you can really, have a life-changing event potentially or get insights that really make your head spin. So I think that gaining insights from the best thinkers and putting those into a college program is really
Mhm.
beneficial. And I talk a lot about potential for compounding. So some things it's great to learn at any point in time, but learning these skills about networking and financial well-being when you're 20, 18 years old, um, that can just fundamentally change your life. So
Absolutely.
my personal story is I got my first job at 15 working at a golf course. And my dad came up to me, and my dad was in finance. So, very much, people talk about Rich Dad, Poor Dad, the book by Robert Kiyosaki. I had the
Right.
advice from somebody who luckily was in this space and knew it. And he said, the first thing you need to do is open up a Roth IRA. And I said, oh, what the heck are you talking about, right? I'm
Yeah.
15 years old. I've never heard this acronym, these two acronyms ever mentioned. So, going through it and the individual retirement account, going through it, setting that up at 15, custodial account, and just starting my investing, even just a little bit. My tips from the golf course, starting at 15 years old, 20 years
Yep.
later, and it's like, wow, this is remarkable how much compounding can safeguard your life.
Yeah.
So through the ups and downs of life, through all the different changes, if you build your nest egg early, even if it's on a few dollars here and there, it is unbelievable the impact that it'll have. So that's what we're trying to get out to the next generation.
Right. Yeah, it's brilliant because you're right. These kids don't get that leadership mentality in schools at all. Usually even leading up to college, right? Which is interesting. I mean, they taught, I remember when I was in grade school, this is weird, maybe it was the school I went to, but they taught like about the stock market and they taught
Mm.
like how it all worked,
Oh,
right? How
good.
to invest in stocks and like how when the stock market closed every day, what it meant. And and so I got into it and then I got really into like learning about the Great Depression and what happened to the
Yeah,
economy during that time and all the things and how did that this should never happen again and now here we are. But um I think it's so important because especially the younger generations today, I don't know that they have a real grasp
mm.
on the reality of the world. I hate to say
No, yeah,
that.
it's a good point.
I hate to say that, but like they don't really just the level of violence I've seen lately, it tells me there's a lack of grip on reality.
Mm.
And I think we need to redirect that into purpose. And that purpose
Yeah.
is teaching these kids how to fundamentally save money and how to set themselves up for a future. Because right now, I don't think they see much of a future for themselves. And that's part
That's
of the issue.
actually, yeah, that's a huge one that I see. So I actually, in my financial well-being class, I have 10 societal sayings that keep you poor. And I have the YOLO and I have you do you and all
Right.
these things that people might have good intentions, but they're keeping people down.
Yeah.
Treat yourself, right? So there's all those in one bucket, but there's another one where it's like, oh, I'll do that when I'm old. That's for old people. I'll do that when
Right.
I get older. I'll do that when I get a full-time job. I don't need to do that. I'm still young. Our generation is screwed anyways. So I've heard all of these things, right, that are keeping people down mentally and
Right.
in a rut. So it's like people are like, I'm only 18. I don't need to worry about that. I'm like, okay, it's actually the perfect time to focus on it because the impact it'll have over the entirety of your life. And it's
Right.
also, no offense to 18 and 20-year-olds, but you follow the general course of when to make money. Before 29, for most people in America, you're single, you don't have any kids, you don't have a house, right? Those are the opportunities where you have discretionary income. It might not be
Right.
much, but that's the easiest time to start.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
If I knew then what I know now,
Right.
right?
Right.
And so I hear that all the time. Like, why didn't I do this when I was younger? I should have. I should have. I wish I could have, or I wish I should have. But the thing is, we they don't think about it because it's a far removed concept
Yes.
and their brains aren't developed yet and they're in party mode, which is understandable,
Mm.
which is why a lot of their parents do this for them or not
Yeah,
at
and
all.
that's one of the other things just talking about too. So some people I teach are older, and we talk about what to do for the next generation for your kids, nieces, nephews, etc. But yeah, I mean, I think obviously there's a different kind of landscape for college where you're focused on, I would say this, the curriculum's almost high school 2.0 as opposed to
Right.
life and workforce readiness. So I
Oh,
think
for
that's the
sure.
gap. That's the gap that I'm trying to fix, right? Is making sure this becomes front and center for them. Because I also have some students that join and they're very sharp and they just needed that knowledge. They never got it, they never heard it, and then they start applying it. My
Right.
concern is if they're not incentivized to learn it, it's not a part of the GPA, it's not a part of even extra credit for their class or whatever. It's going to be, well, I don't need to do this because, it's not front and center. It's not
Right.
something that I'm told I need to do. Everybody else, society is telling me I need to study and get good grades, and then I got to go through and finish high school and then finish college. And then they just arrive at 22 and they're like, what do I do now? I got all my good
Right.
grades. I got my good GPA. I have all this knowledge. Doesn't seem to matter much out here in the real world. So that's what we're trying to fix is preventing, not only I wish I knew that earlier, but for lack of a better word, and I'll be a little explicit here, that oh shit moment, where
Yeah.
you graduate college and it's like, what do I do now?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And frankly, I don't know. It's been a long time since I was in college, but I mean, it was depending upon where you go, a lot of these schools have agendas.
Mm,
And that can be challenging too, because then you come out with even more of a skewed perception of what's going on in the world.
right.
And I think um, having people know how to communicate with each other and network and actually talk to each other
Right.
is a lost art at this point, um,
100%.
especially among the younger generation. And it is a life skill that we have to have. And critical thinking is become non-critical anymore for
Yeah.
some reason. And I'm not sure that the individuals leaving college are like they're in for a rude awakening if they can't critically think. And part of what I'm experiencing right now is even with the younger generations and the older generations, they both have this problem because I'm Gen X, so I'm right in the middle of this
Yeah.
crap. And both of them have the same exact problem, which is like these guys can't critically think and they can't communicate.
Mm,
These guys over here can't communicate with these guys
yeah.
and they don't want
Generational.
to change because they're stubborn as hell.
Yeah. That's
And
to paint a
so,
broad stroke. That is a big challenge. Yep.
yeah, it's like Clash of the Titans
Mm,
in a lot of cases. And if you're not great at critical thinking, from what I know and I see on a daily basis, that becomes a big struggle when you're working with AI.
mm. Yeah, no, for sure. I think that some of the generational gaps do kind of keep us in a state of not really being able to make much of a change.
Well,
And then
it's got to. It's got to.
yeah, and it keeps people combative though,
Yeah.
unfortunately, right? So it's like,
Yeah.
my generation's better than yours and your generation is messed up because of XYZ reason. So, I try not to do too many of the labels, but I feel like you bring up good points that what we see by and large are those challenges. And one of the barriers, talking about barriers to making change, We became a foundation this year because we wanted to remove the barriers of people
Yeah,
saying, "Oh, you're trying to make money off of this. You're trying to profit off of people's lack of success, etc." So we just said, no, the focus here is mission driven. And
right,
then, we're gonna now work with donors that say, hey, I want to put my dollars further towards my college. I don't want to just donate some general fund and keep perpetuating the same problems. Everybody graduates, they don't have the skills that they need, and then corporations are mad and they never learn, etc. So how
right.
about putting your dollars towards something that can actually make a difference?
Yeah, well, and selfishly, I appreciate the mission because I get to work with these people that come out of this type of
Yeah,
program. So, you
yeah.
know, if it's doing anything to get the workforce back on track and to get people back in the position of where they can be successful, that's the best thing for everybody. Everybody needs to win.
I think that's what our aim is. So hopefully we can start. We've already helped a number of folks, and we hope to help more.
Right.
So I
Well,
appreciate you spotlighting it.
yeah, and it should be the aim for everybody, really. Like that should be the goal for 2026 is that everybody should win.
Hmm.
Right. We should all, as a human race, be in each other's corners. I know it's never going to happen. It's like wishing for world peace.
But
But
yeah, it's not a zero sum game, right?
no, it's not a zero-sum game. But when it comes to being able to recognize that there are foundational issues going on in the workforce right now,
Mhm.
because there are, and I'm not going to like pull any punches about it because I talk to hundreds of people, so I know that it can't just be them, right?
Mhm.
And I see this. So there are some like foundational issues going on in the workforce right now. And I mean, there's like too many to name. But the overarching one that can change today is that people can start listening to each other.
Most people are waiting to speak, right?
Mhm.
So that's one of the things we also teach in our emotional intelligence is the level of listening. I put about a 12 section continuum together. And there's a great section on something called inverse charisma, which is trying to make the person feel like that was the best they ever listened to. So as opposed to dominating the speaking, try to
Yeah.
dominate the listening.
Yes.
So some great concepts there. And I think active listening, reflexive listening, there's a lot of things where we can start, but if you can get to that point where you try to make person feel like that's the best they've ever been heard, that's something we should try to win, if you will.
Yeah. And it makes you really good at sales too.
It's a great plug. There you go.
Right. So while we're wrapping up, this has been
Yeah.
great having you. I just have always a final question. What is one habit every emerging leader should build that has nothing to do with like tech or anything in 2026? I know we've touched on probably 800 of them in this talk, but
Yeah.
what would be like your key one?
Yeah. I think so. One thing that's come up a lot in every pretty much podcast that I've spoken on is going first, giving first, doing first. So Anthony Iannarino talks about it in his book, Eat Their Lunch, is entering from the right. So if the left-hand side is you pitching, hey, do you want to meet with me? Do you want to meet with me? And the right-hand side is saving someone's child from a burning building.
Yeah,
How can you be as close to the right without being an arsonist, right? You're not going to set the house on
absolutely.
fire.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
how can you go first, do first, give first, provide value, provide the benchmarking reports, invite them for a dinner, whatever the situation is, without it being too salesy. I think just taking that approach of giving, I don't want to say without expectation, but without that, like, okay, yeah, I invited you. Now you're gonna buy. Like,
Right,
I feel like, just doing things out of that trusted advisor status where you really are trying to help everybody win, right? You said that's 2026 theme is everybody should help each other win. I think that's the approach. So your words and my words, that's the 2026 theme. Everybody
right.
win by going first, giving first, doing first, helping others first.
There we go. We just put it all out there for you. So go forth and win, right?
Yes. No.
So this has been awesome. Everybody go pre-order Maximize. It's coming out. And then visit commenceyourcareer.com if you want to learn more about the foundation. Connect with Alex. You can do that on alexdripchak.com, LinkedIn. We're connected on LinkedIn, so you can find him on mine. 100saleskills.com is the other website. He's all over the place, so
No.
it's hard to miss. But yeah, another reminder, every guest we have on the show is a resource. So we're available to talk. We're available to help. If we don't have the answers, chances are we know enough people that we probably know someone that could help.
Yep.
So any final thoughts, anything else you want to leave our audience with, Alex? It's been so great having you.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure. Thank you. I think just, if you're gonna reach out to me, just give me maybe one thing that you loved hearing about in today's podcast. Really love to hear what resonated with you, and it's a great practice to get into is personalize your invitation. I hate when I get, I like to connect with you on LinkedIn. I pretty much reject every single one of them. So
Yeah.
little preview there. So I'm willing to help, but just make sure you're putting in a little bit of effort.
Right. Awesome. Well, thank you again, and I hope you have a happy holidays and a wonderful rest of your week.
Yeah, looking forward to staying in touch and helping your
Yeah.
community here, Emily.
Awesome. Thanks, Alex.
Thank you.
Wow. Alex just shared some insights that I'm still processing, and I hope you are too. The concept that really stuck with me is this idea of inverse charisma, trying to make others feel like they've never been heard so well. In a world where everyone's waiting to speak, imagine the power of truly dominating the listening. That's not just sales advice, that's transformational leadership. And his point about AI not letting us be mediocre anymore, that resonates deeply. It's raising the floor on what's acceptable, which means our humanity, our ability to connect, to listen, to go first, becomes our greatest differentiator. I also love how Alex is addressing that gap between education and workforce readiness through his Comments Foundation. Teaching 18-year-olds about Roth IRAs and networking isn't just practical, it's about building that sense of future and purpose that so many young people feel is missing. You can find Alex's book Maximize when it launches January 6th, and definitely check out CommenceYourCareer.com to learn more about the life-changing work he's doing with college students. As we wrap up, I want to leave you with Alex's challenge. How can you go first this week? Whether it's in a difficult conversation, supporting a colleague, or simply listening with inverse charisma, where can you lead with generosity instead of waiting for permission? Because here's what I believe. Every interaction is an opportunity to build culture, to create psychological safety, and to help others step into their potential. That's how we transform workplaces, one conversation at a time. Thanks for joining us on Talent Talks.